Cowboys Nation, what's up? This Dallas Cowboys team is doing everything it can to improve. After a disappointing 7-10 season, the front office has clearly shifted gears. We're seeing real urgency, calculated risks, smart moves, and a front office that's finally acting like it knows the clock is ticking. That's exactly what we want to see, right? And if you appreciate the effort this team is making to bounce back and build a winner, go ahead and smash that like button right now. It helps this channel reach more Cowboys fans just like you. All right, let's get into the story of the day. Because even though George Pickens is now officially a Cowboy, we just found out that Dallas nearly landed another major name at wide receiver before him. And there are more moves potentially on the horizon. This is big. Let's talk about it. According to Fox Sports insider Jordan Schultz, the Cowboys were very active in their search for a wide receiver before they pulled the trigger on the George Pickens trade. One of the names they were seriously interested in Rashad Bateman, the 2021 first-round pick from the Baltimore Ravens. That's right, Bateman, a former Minnesota standout and the 27th overall pick, was on the Cowboys' radar. The front office reached out to Baltimore to inquire about his availability as part of their mission to find a legit WR2 to complement CeeDee Lamb. Now, some people are going to scoff at this because Bateman hasn't lived up to his first-round billing yet. But let's be clear. This is a talented guy with upside. He's only 25 years old. He had a career-best season in 2024 with 756 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns. He's a smooth route runner with reliable hands, and he started to show flashes of the player Baltimore thought they were getting 3 years ago. The only reason Bateman isn't more of a household name right now is because Zay Flowers has become Lamar Jackson's go-to guy in Baltimore. But that doesn't mean Bateman couldn't have been a legitimate weapon for the Cowboys. The fact that Dallas went after Bateman and then ultimately traded for George Pickens tells us something important. This front office is serious about building around Dak Prescott. Jerry Jones made it clear before the draft that significant moves were coming, and he delivered. Even if the timeline was a little slower than expected, he made the splash. The Cowboys knew they couldn't go into 2025 with just CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and Jalen Tolbert. They needed someone who could stretch the field, win contested catches, and take pressure off their number one. Bateman could have been that guy. Pickens now is that guy. It also tells us that Dallas is willing to explore every avenue, from trades to free agency to the draft, to fix the problems that held them back last year. And speaking of problems, let's talk about that run. Defense. If you watched the Cowboys last season, you already know. The run defense was a disaster. Opposing teams ran right through Dallas week after week. It was a huge reason they fell apart late in the year. So what's the front office doing about it? They re-signed Osa Odighizuwa, who's emerging as a reliable force up front. They picked up multiple free agents for the D-line. They drafted 2 defensive tackles, including 340-pound monster Jay Toya, and now there are reports that they might not be done. According to Mason Cameron of Pro Football Focus, the Cowboys are a team to watch in the DJ Reader sweepstakes. Reader, a 30-year-old defensive tackle currently with the Detroit Lions, is reportedly a cutter trade candidate, and the Cowboys have been one of the most aggressive teams in trade talks this offseason. They've already pulled off 4 trades since March. Adding Reader would be move number 5. Let's break this one down, Cowboys fans. On one hand, Reader's resume is impressive. Over the past 3 seasons, he's ranked in the 91st percentile for run defense, according to PFF. He's a massive interior presence, the kind of player who eats up space and lets linebackers roam free. Last year, he posted a career-high 3 sacks along with 23 tackles and 4 tackles for loss. Not jaw-dropping numbers, but certainly respectable for a nose tackle. But here's the flip side. Injuries. Reader has been battling knee and quad issues in recent seasons. He's 30 years old and entering his 10th NFL season. That's a lot of wear and tear, especially for a guy who plays a physically punishing position. And remember, the Cowboys are already depending on Osa Odighizuwa becoming a star Mozzie Smith, finally living up to his first-round draft status. Jay Toya proving he can play at the NFL level, Solomon Thomas rediscovering the promise he once showed. Adding Reader would bring another question mark to a unit that already has a few. especially if it costs more draft picks, which the Cowboys have already been willing to give up this offseason. If Detroit decides to release Reeder instead of trading him, then the conversation changes, because now you're talking about a low-cost veteran signing, possibly at the league minimum, using some of the Cowboys' $30 million in cap space. In that case, why not? You bring him in, you give him a shot in camp, and maybe you strike gold, but trading picks for a 30-year-old with a questionable injury history, that doesn't feel like the kind of high-upside, low-risk move Dallas has been making this offseason. Let's circle back to the wide receiver situation because it really highlights how things are changing in Dallas. Last offseason, the Cowboys were silent. No major trades, no aggressive moves, and it showed. They were stale on offense, predictable at times, and easy to slow down in the postseason. This year, they pursued Rashad Bateman. They pulled off the George Pickens trade. They restructured contracts. They're using cap space and draft picks to go after needs instead of just hoping for development. That's the kind of mentality that turns playoff teams into championship contenders. Earlier this week, the Cowboys sent a 2026 third-round pick and a 2027 fifth-rounder to the Pittsburgh Steelers in exchange for George Pickens and a 2027 sixth-round pick. Now let's just pause and think about that. You're getting a 24-year-old wide receiver with 1,000-yard potential, freak athleticism, and game-breaking ability. And all it cost you was a couple of future picks? That's a bet you make every single time. But this wasn't just about numbers. This was about a fresh start for both sides. And some analysts believe Pittsburgh was the real problem here, not George Pickens. Analyst: Steelers never unlocked Pickens' potential veteran NFL analyst. Mike Florio didn't hold back after the deal was finalized. He said, and I quote, "So much of what's happened to George Pickens is a product of where he landed in his first NFL stop. He's supremely talented." Florio even went further and compared flashes of Pickens' skill set to Randy Moss. Now let's be clear, he wasn't saying Pickens is Randy Moss, but the flashes? The rare traits, he sees it. We're talking gravity-defying catches, incredible body control, the ability to win deep even when covered, and that natural, almost effortless swagger you just can't teach. Florio said, there is a tremendous gap between George Pickens and Randy Moss, but I've seen in Pickens qualities that put him in the Moss potential. That's not light praise. That's serious belief in his upside. What went wrong in Pittsburgh? So why didn't it work out in Pittsburgh? Two big reasons. Quarterback play offensive design in 2023, George Pickens had 1,040 yards and 5 touchdowns, and he did that with the quarterback carousel of Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph. That's not exactly a group known for lighting up the stat sheet. Florio made it simple. Even when he's not open, he's open. But if you're on a team that doesn't have a quarterback who can get you the ball regularly, that's a problem. And here's the other key point. The Steelers never truly built their offense around him. No designed touches, no early game involvement to get him going, no clear plan to feed him like a WR1. That kind of underutilization kills chemistry and stunts development, especially with young, confident players like Pickens who thrive off energy and rhythm. So, who won the trade? That's the million-dollar question, right? If you just look at the draft capital, it's fair to say this was a calculated risk for Dallas. Pickens is entering the final year of his rookie deal. If things go south, either production-wise or personality-wise, you just gave up valuable picks for a short-term rental. But here's the flip side. You have Dak Prescott, who's still a top 10 QB when protected and schemed right. You have CeeDee Lamb, arguably the best route runner in the game. You now add George Pickens, a legitimate deep ball specialist who forces safeties to respect the vertical threat. This isn't a Band-Aid. This is a bold move with high upside. And what's the downside? That you lose a third and fifth in a couple of years? That's the cost of doing business in the modern NFL. Look, the Cowboys needed to get more explosive. They needed to take defensive attention off Lamb. They needed to be more dangerous on offense. And this move? This might be the key. What about the Steelers? While we're here, what exactly is Pittsburgh thinking? They let a 24-year-old 1,000-yard receiver go for picks 2 years down the road. They have no proven WR1 on the roster now. They're hoping. rookie RB Caleb Johnson turns into something special, and they might roll into 2025 with Mason Rudolph or maybe Aaron Rodgers if that crazy trade rumor happens. But right now, this looks like damage control, not strategy. Pickens' attitude may have rubbed some coaches the wrong way, sure, but talent like this doesn't come around often, and when you give up on it too early, you usually regret it. Dallas's plan for Pickens. So what's next? This is the most important part of this story. What are the Cowboys going to do differently? Mike Florio ended his take with a powerful line. He's highly talented, but I never felt like the Steelers fully embraced and cultivated the talents that he had, and that's the mission for Dallas now. You have to embrace George Pickens, you have to design plays for him, you have to trust him, even when the coverage is tight, even when he looks blanketed. Because the truth is, he wins those matchups. This guy can tilt coverages, break a game open with a single catch, and give Dak the downfield option he's needed since Amari Cooper left. But this only works if the Cowboys buy in, and based on how aggressive they were to get him, I think they're ready to do exactly that. So here's where we are, Cowboys fans. The Cowboys seriously inquired about Rashad Bateman before landing George Pickens. They're continuing to explore defensive tackle help, including names like DJ Reader. They've already made 4 trades this offseason and are showing no signs of slowing down. This is the kind of front office behavior we've been waiting for, but now we want to know what you think. Drop your answers in the comments. Would you have preferred Rashad Bateman over George Pickens? Should Dallas go after DJ Reader via trade, wait for a release, or stay away altogether? 3. Do you believe this new aggressive mindset will pay off in 2025? And if you're still watching, I appreciate you. You're the reason we do this every single day. Hit that like button if you think Dallas is finally on the right track. Subscribe if you want the latest Cowboys news, rumors, and breakdowns all season long, and don't forget to turn on notifications because we've got a lot more coming your way. Let's ride, Cowboys Nation. This season could be different, but it starts with moves like these. Go Cowboys!